Okay, roll it.
All right.
What defines the American spirit? Preserving life, liberty, and pursuing happiness. Caring for the nation we call home and its people. As patriots, it's our duty to drive the entrepreneurial spirit, pushing hard, reaching for success, sharing patriotism, because the American way of life is for all to live. The flag shirt, where freedom reigns.
Good afternoon, everybody. We want to welcome everybody to the election security call. We're going on 5 years now. We've had over 400 speakers. A couple of announcements before our guest Peter Tickton comes on. I got a call before from Tina Peters from prison. Unfortunately, I couldn't answer. I was on the air. We want to all remember her and wish her a happy Mother's Day. Messages will get to her. I will pass them on. We want to give our condolences and help, hopefully, Joe Hoft, who's in the hospital. He had a stroke. He's doing okay, but he's paralyzed a little bit on his foot and his arm. He wanted to let everybody know he can think clearly. His twin brother, Jim Hoft, both of them from Gateway Pundit, just had a heart operation, and he's doing okay. We also want to thank our good friend Raj Diajami for hosting this with me. And also want to talk a little bit about our last call last Thursday, precinctprojectusa.org. Very important. We want everybody to see this. Can you see this, Raj? Is that on the air?
It is on the air.
All right. So precinctprojectusa.org. What that is, we want everybody to join it. If you don't mind taking a picture of it, writing it down. I'll be putting this up a lot and why it's important. As you all know, Dan Schultz and myself worked on precinct strategy with Dan Schultz, Steve Bannon, many other people. President Trump endorsed it. Please, if you can, get his book. Now, what's precinct strategy? That's the Republican Party. Now, why are we doing this? precinctprojectusa.org? Very important. We're trying to get 200,000 new committee men and committee women. And our estimate over the last 4 months, we got 20,000 new precinct committee men and committee women, which is very important to the cause. When you go to Precinct Project USA, we have monthly newsletters. We teach you how to recruit people. We have a Zoom meeting every month. There's precinct manuals on there. We have round-the-clock people. One person from every state is available to tell you how to go, get on. I want to thank today Steve Bannon for putting me on live today. We got a lot of people come on because of him. Rumble, who has us on the front page, and many other people that are streaming this today. One of our next items that we're going to be celebrating our 250th USA America, along with Precinct Project on June the 10th, where we'll have about 4 hours of working on that. Broward County is having Trump Day on September 19th. So anybody who would like to get involved with that, please email me at stern1054@gmail.com. Let me put that up. stern1054@gmail.com. Very important. I'll be putting it up. One of the most important things the RNC asked me today to let you know, please start to become a poll watcher and poll worker, protectthevote.com, protectthevote.com. We will have people speaking about this on our next event that we have. Raj, you want to say a few words before Peter comes on?
Linda Meeks, Sarasota.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Steve, for putting this together. As you know, we are if you're in Florida, we are ramping up for the primaries, state and nationwide. You're all involved in the primaries. The primary goal of this, main focus of this group is obviously election integrity. And I'm asking each and every one of you to please also look to the people that your communities are wanting to get elected in the primary elections. We are facing tremendous stiff opposition from politicians that have been in office too long, or they're unable to or unwilling to understand the changes and reform that needs to be done to protect the reliability of elections, or they've been just bought off. So if you have politicians in that regard, it is on us to do the work to get them replaced. And I am working closer now than I've ever worked before on a campaign, and I can tell you firsthand that getting someone in office is one of the most difficult projects that I've ever been part of, due to the number of people that have to be moved, motivated in a short amount of time, distributing palm cards, having house meetings, staying in touch with people that vote or should vote but are not voting, motivating people to vote. It is a massive, massive lift. And so it is especially important this midterms with the president of the Oval Office that we do not lose the House. And that is going to come onto the function and the work that we, the people on this call, and the people we influence do. Let us not be another statistic where the House goes against the Oval Office during the midterms. As we all know, if that happens, we're looking at possibly impeachment processes, war crimes, and all of this nonsense that might create a very, very bad future for our country. So I want to encourage you to do that. I know you're busy, I know you're jammed, but I want to encourage you to do that. And lastly, you can see Steve's wearing the America 250 merchandise. Please purchase gifts from the flag shirt. You saw the commercial at the beginning. Why I'm mentioning that? Because every purchase you make helps keep this program afloat. So please do that. And there's fantastic apparel there for men and women. So with that, Steve, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. So just let you know that we want you guys to stay on late. We have two important guests coming on at the end around 4 o'clock. Mitch Vexler, who will be giving you some tremendous information, and John Goodman, who is our backup and also one of our main speakers. So now we bring on a good friend of mine who's on every show everywhere. He's always there for us. Attorney Peter Tickton, one of the big stars in the United States, and we'll make sure he comes on our centennial for the 250. So Peter, come on down.
Great, thank you. Well, Raj, you're right about the apparel that you're talking about selling. It's beautiful stuff. I need to get one of those shirts myself, so I'll be one of your customers right after this. The things that you wanted me to mention and talk about, Steve, are Tina Peters, who I represent, and we're still working on getting her out. We didn't expect to necessarily win the appeal. We thought we were going to do better than we did, because of the way that their questions were an oral argument, which is completely different than the way things flipped for their written decision. And that was very peculiar the way that happened. But in this environment, we expect all kinds of things like that to happen, especially in a captured state like Colorado. But meanwhile, she's doing well, not as well as we want her to be. And we need to get her out, and hopefully we will. I can tell you this, the other thing that we're going to talk about is whether I've thrown my hat in the ring to be the next Attorney General. And that's looking promising, believe it or not. There's the scuttlebutt that I get back is promising. I've had, by the way, you mentioned Jim and Joe Hobbs, two American heroes as far as I'm concerned, and God help them. Please, we should all pray for their recoveries, speedy recoveries. We need them, and they're just good people. But also Rudy Giuliani. A couple of weeks ago, he told me he was calling the president to let him know that I need to be the next Attorney General. So I hope that he did that. But one way or the other, here we have three important major Americans that are all kind of struck at the same time, and just praying for each of them, and hope you all do. Why am I looking to be the Attorney General? It's not because I aspire to be an Attorney General. That's just never been my calling. I just see that there are things that need to be done that nobody else is doing. To give you a really quick idea about what I'm talking about is like January 6th, for instance. We know that January 6th was planned in advance by the left. I actually have access to the videos of Zoom meetings where they were meeting as far back as September 2020. And these people we have them on video committing, an insurrection, basically. And nobody's gone after them. Nobody's considering it. In fact, they basically forgot all about 2020. But the reason 2020 is so important is because 2020 is now. The people that were planning what they were planning, the insurrectionists that literally took over our country for 4 years. And if you don't think our country was taken over, tell me, how could it ever be a good idea to open our borders? And how could it be a good idea to weaponize against mothers that go to Board of Education meetings, or doctors that prescribe ivermectin, or police officers that are doing their duty, but there's a suggestion of excessive force, and et cetera, et cetera. And they went after upper middle class MAGA wholeheartedly all over the country. So, how could all of this be, we know what it is, and we know that it's China, and we know that we're in a surreptitious war where there's no overt firing of weaponry, but basically they worm their way into our election system using Venezuela's systems, which come from Smartmatic and then Dominion, and now they call it Liberty, and we know this stuff is still in play. So it's going to require somebody there that's going to do the opposite of what Bill Barr did, which was basically condone everything that was going on. You may remember he said, well, we haven't seen any evidence of any election fraud, as his hands are over his eyes, and not looking for any. If you're not looking for it, then you're not going to find it. But we're going to need to find it. We need to find it fast, because the election is November 3rd. These characters are going to get sworn into the House and Senate on the 5th of January, 62 days later. That's no time at all. That time's going to fly by so fast. If we don't have this stuff figured out in advance with the right investigations going on, just in case the worst thing happens, then the nightmare scenario where they are able to impeach both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and then remove them and make Hakeem Jeffries our next president, where we'll have lost it all. We need to make sure that we have someone in place that's got the mechanism going forward to basically put the brakes on whatever it was that took over. So, there's a lot of reasons that I need to move to do this. I hope you all like the idea. Of course, there's only one voter for whether I get to be in the next attorney general or not, and that's Donald J. Trump. Right now, I'm sure he's mulling it over. I know Donald Trump well enough to know how, in some ways, how he thinks. And I know, what he does is he takes his time until he knows that that's where he wants to go and what decision he wants to make. And once he does, then he'll move forward. I can only hope that he does what he needs to do to protect himself and America, because that's what I'm about. So I hope that all makes sense to everybody here. I guess that's about it, Steve, because
so when is the appeal going to be with Tina, the judge? When is he going to talk about resentencing?
Okay, so we moved to recuse him because we know what he is. And it's not as though he's not a biased guy. We know exactly what he is, but he doesn't think he is, and he refused to recuse himself and refused to allow her out on bail pending the rest of the appeal, because we're still appealing to the Supreme Court of Colorado. And then we take it, including the pardon. Remember, she got a federal pardon, and whether that can apply to state crimes that have federal implications is a question that is yet to be answered. It's never been answered. So that's going to be a question of first instance in the Supreme Court of the United States. We're looking forward to seeing that get worked out. So, one way or the other, there's a lot in store. If I get to be the Attorney General, then I'm going to make sure she gets out. And there's other ways and other things that need to be done. But, I can promise, not that you're the voters, only President Trump will be, but I can promise that she's coming out. Okay, we're not going to just leave her in there because of lack of guts. Okay, we got to do what we got to do. And one of those things is get an American patriot out of harm's way.
So how do people reach you if they want to have any questions or anything?
Okay, well, I'm at legalbrains.com. I'm a lawyer, think of it, Legal Brains. There's a bunch of us in the firm, more than my brain. and .com. And for Tina Peters, it's Tina, Tina, Peters, Peters .us. So you can figure out what's going on in her cases and so on. It's all there for you to read if you want to go to tinapeters.us.
Thank you very much, Peter. We appreciate you taking time away from all your trials and everything to be here for us, and we will get you on the next show.
Well,
have a good week and wish
Thank
everybody happy Mother's Day and your family.
Same to you. And I just want to say, Steve, look what you're doing here. You're an amazing American. Thank you so much for what you do. I think we all appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. And just to let you know, I'm going to be 85 here May the 20th. So we need young people to get involved. You know, we young people get involved, and we're going to do a young person Zoom meeting here sometime in May or June to find out why the young people aren't getting involved. So we'll keep you posted. Thanks again, Peter. And we're going to bring on our next guest, Marley Hornick, realamerica.vote.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peter, for representing Tina. And I've never met you in person. I've never even Zoomed with you, but it was really a great honor to help you guys with one tiny part of her defense, the argument about her being a state and federal officer, an officer of Congress. And I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled watching you and John make those arguments. And I'm just so happy that I could help. And I'm sorry that the judges were too dumb to hear your outstanding arguments. They were very clear, and someone who was willing to listen, whose ears were open, would have heard them. So I continue to pray for your success and for Tina, and also for Steve and Raj. Thank you, and everyone here. You know, the more that this goes on and on, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but when I started New York Citizens Audit in 2021, I used to just, put dinner out for my kids and tell them basically, well, I'll be back in, a couple weeks because this is so outrageous. It's going to be fixed. And here we still are. And I just want to thank everyone who's still on these calls and still working on this issue for your tenacity and your dedication to this country, your devotion to America. And I just want to talk a little bit about what I'm doing right now at realamerica.vote. As most of you know by now, I was removed from Unite for Freedom after dedicating my life to the organization, training up the people, doing all the recruiting of all the data analysts and whatnot, cut out in one morning, just all my privileges revoked and just booted out of that organization. That didn't stop me, as you know, from filing major civil rights action against Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections. And actually right now we are awaiting the judge's decision on the motion to dismiss. So we are nearing the point at the district level when we're either going to move on to discovery or we're going to be appealing. And one thing I'm really excited about just as a New Yorker, and this is just maybe inspiration for people in your states, if you want to learn these arguments and fight them, political analysis of this case, Nika v. James, shows that if we hit discovery, Bruce Blakeman, Saritha Kamatareddy, and Joe Hernandez get a +3 in their races just because of the threat of disclosure of what the Board of Elections is really doing. And of course, that applies. Raj was talking about keeping the House. That applies to the 26 House seats from New York as well. So keep fighting. Don't ever give up. Don't ever quit. Use every tool you have. You will make a difference, and you are making a difference. What we're doing right now with realamerica.vote is a couple of things. First of all, we are investigating Mamdani's election. We are running a forensic audit of the veracity, let's say, of the voters whose votes were counted in that election. The second sentence of our Constitution says that the people choose the representatives and the states agree to qualify each one of those voters according to their own laws. And that has to happen before the person is registered, before they get a ballot, and before their vote is counted and counted fairly. So we are preparing arguments, not just from the voter data, but using the services of skilled and licensed investigators to show not only that New York City counted massive numbers of false, illegal votes in Mamdani's election, but because there was a constitutional amendment on the back of each of those ballots, so did New York State. Why does this matter for you where you are? First of all, the immediate goal is to show that the Democratic Socialists of America can't win without cheating. Second of all, it's to show and prove in a material, criminal fashion that election fraud is widespread. Third of all, we are doing this investigation in conjunction with individuals inside of the Department of Justice system, and we are working closely with them so that the DOJ can make either civil or criminal arguments using this data, because the methodology has already been reviewed by the DOJ. It has been verified and validated, as well as the outcome when we did smaller studies similar to this one in the past. So we are moving the needle big time with this investigation, and this is going to result in the opportunity for the president to mandate voter ID at a bare minimum for the state of New York in the midterms. Going back to Raj's argument about keeping the House, there are multiple New York State House seats at risk, and so forcing a legitimate process in those elections is going to help every American have legitimate representation in Congress by holding that majority, holding on to every single seat we need with our fingernails, clawing them back, because we know what is going on right now. People who prefer big government, income redistribution, which is nothing other than government theft, and all of these socialist policies, which we know historically end in mass violence. They don't end in utopia. That's not where they go. We have to claw our country back from their clutches because they're very close to success. So that's what this project in New York is all about. And in addition, because we're very concerned about elections broadly, we're also going to be getting ready to put up billboards in Times Square and other key New York City and New York State locations, arguing that communism kills, as an educational initiative to overcome the fantasy that Kathy Hochul and Zoran Mamdani know anything about what the hell they're doing. And we're also going to be working on a major billboard campaign in metro regions of California to make sure, as Raj said, he's working on a campaign. He knows, like, that is a huge issue, learning how to do that, learning how to get the word out. We're going to be putting up billboards in the major California metro regions, reminding every California voter that voter ID is on the ballot in November, and that more than 80% of American people want voter ID, including in California. So we're going to be working to help those candidates and those initiatives there in California. I thank you again for all of the work you're doing and all of your efforts and your forensic investigations. And I encourage you to be in touch with me. I'm always looking for people who want to focus on this work, want to work together as a team with integrity and, frankly, loyalty. And you can always visit me at realamerica.vote. You can also see me. I'm going to be on with Todd Starnes today at 5. I'm a frequent commentator now on Newsmax, News Nation, Fox 5 DC, and also Fox 5 New York. And of course, that's so I can be a trusted resource for you and all the people who understand the election problem through the midterms. So I'm really looking forward to representing these issues as the midterms unfold. And I encourage you to reach out to me and get me educated about what you know so I can represent it. Thank you so much. realamerica.vote.
You want to put up your email also in case anybody wants to email you?
Absolutely. It's just mh@realamerica.vote. And that's also Real America Vote is my Twitter. Also, I have Marley Hornick 1. If you used to follow me at Marley Hornick, please follow me at Marley Hornick 1. It's probably a coincidence, but the day after our press conference in DC at the Hay Adams Hotel announcing our lawsuit against Letitia James, my Marley Hornick X account was frozen forever and is locked. Probably a coincidence, though.
They're always after us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on today. I know you're always a busy young lady because it's always hard to get a hold of you. So thank you. You have a great Mother's Day, okay?
Thank you, Steve. That's very
You're
sweet.
quite
Thanks,
welcome.
everybody.
So a couple of people were asking me about where to get our shirts because we put it up. If you go to theflagshirt.com. We have some of the greatest t-shirts, and we see a tremendous increase in business for the 250 anniversary. So we hope everybody be wearing it. And when they go to DC, we expect about 1 million or so people up there. So if everybody's wearing a hat, we'll sell 1 million hats. So that's terrific. Okay, our next guest, I'm glad to have him because we've been trying to get him for a while, Ed Vidal. He's an election integrity brigade from Miami. Of course, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm from Miami originally. So we're glad to have him. So Ed, come on down. Unmute.
All right, Steve. Thank you very much, and I commend you for your energy. I just attended my 45th law school reunion, and I found out that we're going to be celebrating our 60th. So my new goal is to survive, not survive, but to thrive until I get to another 15 years. So I'm working on that. On election integrity, I'm one of the founders of the Election Integrity Brigade here in Miami-Dade County. And the way we started was after the 2000 election, a lot of people were concerned. It was obvious to us that the election had been stolen. Now, I had been active in poll watching. I'm a lawyer. I've been active in poll watching when I was just before I went to law school in '78 in Chicago. So I learned poll watching in Chicago, but then I was a corporate lawyer for 30 years. And in 2008, I realized who we were going to elect as our new president. So I was active in poll watching ever since. I was poll watching in Philadelphia in 2008, New York, Mount Vernon, New York, White Plains, New York, Houston, Texas, and so on. But after the 2000 election, I decided that I had to become more involved. So I tried to join our Republican Executive Committee here in Miami-Dade County. And many other people did the same. We had about a dozen or more people. And we started working on recruiting more people for the Republican Executive Committee and focusing on cleaning the voter rolls, fighting vote by mail, and generally changing the approach of the local Republicans. One thing you have to understand about the state of Florida is a red state and a Republican state, but it's not necessarily a conservative state, at least on the government end of it. It's definitely very hard to get our Republican establishment to pay attention to the need for election integrity. And I think Raj was referring to that earlier. So unfortunately, the Republican Executive Committee here in Miami was not very receptive to our request for election integrity. So in 2023, we left and we formed our own organization. We're not affiliated with the Republican Party. They can't stop us from doing anything, but we're all conservative Republicans, but independent from the establishment, which is something I commend to all organizations like that you might want to be doing. And so since then, we've been focusing on various issues, as I said, voter rolls, but my particular focus has been on vote by mail. In 2000, the election was rigged with all those mail-in ballots that were sent out. We'd never done that. If you look at other countries in the world, nobody does that. France tried it from like 1958 till 75. They got rid of it because of massive fraud. I've interviewed journalists from all over the world. They were here in 2024 to see the electoral process. I met with them. Nobody does vote by mail like we do, especially places like Oregon, California, where there is no in-person voting. So we have been fighting that in every way we can. We're working with Defend Florida and other election integrity warriors in the state of Florida, trying to get legislation that will limit the use of vote by mail. However, what's happening is that the Florida Republican establishment, which holds most of the supervisor of elections and certainly supervisor of elections here in Miami-Dade County, don't care. They think vote by mail is fine. So let me give you, even though President Trump has spoken against vote by mail, he's threatened, he's issued election or executive orders limiting vote by mail. The people in the Republican establishment in Miami-Dade, they've been endorsed by Trump, and they still don't pay attention. They think that it doesn't apply to them because in Florida, you cannot get a vote by mail unless you request it. So they think that's a magic wand that limits them from limiting vote by mail. They think they're okay. Well, here's what happened recently. In Coral Gables, in Miami-Dade County, there was an election. Election day was in April. They sent out vote by mail ballots in March. The Florida statutes specifically say that you cannot send, the supervisors of election cannot send a vote by mail ballot to a voter that has not requested it. In this case, they sent 37,000 vote by mail ballots on these amendments to their charter, and nobody requested it. So what did I do? One of the things that we're supposed to have here in Florida is we have a Republican Secretary of State, and there's also an Office of Election Crimes and Security. So I notified them. They don't do anything. We've had the same problem with other situations where we've notified them of that on particular days, 90,000 vote by mail ballots were requested by one person. Who did that? Where'd it go? So that's another issue. Finally, a couple of years ago, we sent to the Florida Secretary of State a registration form that was sent to a new immigrant that had just landed. The Florida Department of Welfare had sent her a voter registration form. So that gives you an idea that we conservative Republicans are fighting a Florida Republican establishment that doesn't care much about election integrity. And that's a continuing fight. I'm looking forward to joining the Precinct Project. I think we need more conservatives to get involved in the Republican establishment so that we can make sure that they abide by our interests and our concerns, especially on election integrity. So, Steve, I think you're going to get a lot of people going into the Precinct Project USA very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How do people reach out to you?
Okay, go to electionintegritybrigade.com and you can leave a notice there. Electionintegritybrigade.com.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You got it. We want to thank Voice of the People, Dan Sriglio, for streaming us today. He gets a lot of people in a lot of countries. Also, Larry Courtcamp from OBBM Network. SG Annan right now has, we just looked, 13,000 people on it. Joe DeBox always helps us out. He's on today, but he will be streaming it tomorrow. So we have a lot of people that stream it today, tomorrow, over the weekend continuously. Cloud Hub gets a huge amount of people. Rumble is on the front page. X, we have people doing it on X and other particular things. Raj, tell us how Defend Florida is helping us, since we just had a Florida guy on, and what you're doing coming up. You want to unmute, Raj?
Yeah, he's unmuted. Go ahead, Doctor.
No, it's you, Raj. Give us a little background on Defend Florida.
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. So regarding the work for Defend Florida, and sorry, Steve, I was multitasking there. Regarding the work of Defend Florida has been working on election reform in the state of Florida now since 2021. The more important piece, though, is that the volunteers at Defend Florida have just been very focused on execution. So whenever we have a chance to hear something from any one of the election integrity experts that have been featured on this call, the team would just work on it and jump on it. And they were very material in getting election reform passed in Florida that created the revised regulations on how to maintain the voter rolls, the election crimes unit. But if we jump forward to where we are now, over the last few years, the reform that the state needs in Florida have been rebuffed by our legislators. And so, and this might be happening in your neck of the woods as well. And so we advocated, we educated, we met legislators in Tallahassee, which is our state capital. We met legislators in their home offices throughout the district. We checked off just about every box that you can think of with regard to doing the work to pass election reform. Having been rebuffed on many of the important pieces, what we have now drawn the conclusion on is and I'm sharing this with you because I'm advocating this for your consideration if you are not already doing it. We have to now become very good at raising a lot of money. We have to become very competent in raising a lot of money. So I'm probably stating the obvious, but wherever you are, definitely here in Florida, the people that are opposed to our ideals are massively funded. They have a rat's nest of PACs that move money in undisclosed ways, legally, but they move money in undisclosed ways from PAC to PAC to PAC. Incumbent politicians use these PACs to force newly elected officials to toe the line and to behave in accordance with what the establishment agenda is. And so in order to combat that, we have to recruit, train, and fund competent statesmen, stateswomen that will represent our values. And the money part of that is going to be something that we have to become very good at. And what I mean by that is we, the people on the call, we have to be buying airtime from hostile media in your markets to both promote your candidate and to draw attention, negative ad campaign on whoever is in charge right now that's doing a bad job of representing the people in your community. We have to do the same thing with paper and digital news sources. We have to fund the purchase and distribution of palm cards, bus stop signs, billboards. So the reality is, as we look at where we are now in 2026, our voters are highly fractured. They're distracted. They're being targeted by messaging from the opposition in very capable ways. We must now enter that playing field, and we must now do an even better job than they have been doing. Now, if you're interested to see how we're doing it at Defend Florida, you can go to defendflorida.org, and on the homepage, you'll see a QR code, you'll see a link. What we started testing is a method, and when I say we, let me just be a little clearer there. There's a PAC that's been created. The PAC is not part of Defend Florida. It's a PAC called Ground Game. And this PAC, the test here is if a person is interested, they can apply for a unique code with materials customized to them specifically. They can, in Florida, this is allowable. You'll have to check in your state if it's allowed there, but they can share this one pager with people in their community. And that person who shares that information with members in the community, they will actually receive 25% of whatever was raised. So this is a game changer that we're hoping will be a game changer, where we are incentivizing and motivating volunteers whose heart's on the right place, but are unable to prioritize fundraising in their schedule because they're very busy doing many other things, living life. So we're hoping that this way, if someone would take the time and maybe speak to 5 people and they raise a total of $100, that person will actually get $25 of what they raise. So this is a test we're doing. If this is a practice that your state will allow, consider testing this as well in your location. If you'd like to learn anything more about that, please feel free to contact me. I'll put an email address of one of my colleagues in the email field, and you can contact us to learn more about that. But as I wrap this up, the thing I want to say again is, it's our feeling and our view, and you may hopefully share this based on everything you've seen all of us doing and the results that we have obtained, that in order to increase the level of results and performance that we need to get, we have to get very good at raising a lot of money so that the people that you and I believe in can actually put in office. So thank you for that opportunity. Steve, I'll turn it back to you.
You got it. Our next guest, and we're bringing him back again. He did a phenomenal job last time, Dr. Rick Richards with Ely. and the election list, maintenance list. Very important. Make sure you get in contact with him. He's got tremendous information.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity to visit with y'all again today. I'm going to move extremely quickly through my 10 minutes, but we'll cover a lot. And I'm going to talk about the actual problems a little bit more than the technology itself. If you go to the electoralist.com, you can verify your own vote and look at the information the state has about you. You can also communicate with us by scrolling down. You can send a request for credentials. Let's see, so let's get started. So the data we have now, we're up to 47 states, and in the June we'll be adding Alabama, so we'll have 48 states. For comparison, of course, Ellie has 25, 2 more are coming. Eric does imports data from 4 sources. We import data from 22. Eric does 4 reports. We do over 350. Eric has no transparency whatsoever. We have 24/7, 365 availability to all the data. Eric is charging Georgia $107,000 and Ellie is free. So any citizen in the United States who is an active registered voter and passes our vetting can get credentials to go in, and all 3,143 county election offices can get credentials, and we will be working as citizens to help them do the voter list maintenance. I actually created an AI prompt to look at what it would take for the states to do one-on-one exchanges of voter roll data, which is the current plan for the Eric states to get the other 24 states. North Dakota and New Hampshire don't have voter registration rolls available. And it would cost $9.5 million per state to set up the program to get the data and manage it, and then roughly $7.8 million a year. Ellie's free. This is the dashboard. You get a credentials, you go in. This is under reports, and this is the same registration address report for Georgia. You'll see 13,000 people registered at this one at 1,200. That's just one of the many reports. This submission, when we work a case, it is put into the inbox for the county elections office to pick up. So they are being notified as HAVA requires. This is what it looks when they click down on the record. This person happens to be registered in Georgia and Ohio, so it shows both their registrations. Their Georgia information is in light blue. Their other state information is in deep blue. The post office is in deep blue. The move information is in purple. And all this information is sourced directly from Secretary of State or the U.S. Post Office. Ellie has no data of its own. So we'll look at their address details, Then we'll look at the registration history to see if there's any change been from one registration to another. Then we look at their voting history. Then we look at all the people who are registered at the same address, which would be the same apartment number, and those who are registered at the same address, which would be the building number. And you can see there's 78 found registered at this address. We can click on the arrow and go right to each one of these individuals, or we can work this, proving that it's not a valid address, and all 78 will be marked and challenged at the same time. We have the property tax detail for 159 million properties in the United States. So this has 0 bedrooms and 0 total rooms. We might want to look at it. It's a commercial by property class and zoning information. We'll look at the other address. That's where they have in Ohio, they have the homestead tax exemption, so they shouldn't be registered in Georgia at all. All that's reportable to the county election office. We list the reasons why it becomes a case or a problem, and we tell why it's ineligible for the voter roll and why it's not appropriate for absentee ballot. And all the problems are listed. Each one needs to be addressed, and then we confirm the move with the proprietary change of address information. We have the comments down below that the individual users can put in, the screenshots that they can put in. You'll notice this is a virtual mailbox, and this address has 78 registrations, but right down the road, 2 buildings, is another house with 66 reservations. So that information is available in Ellie just by clicking. This is what you click the PDF button and you can print out an individual summary sheet on yourself if you look up your own vote, or on other people as well, containing the information that I just told you. Or if you want to, you can print them out as a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, which includes the hyperlink to the documentary evidence to prove your point. So all the information's there along with the documentary evidence. We get all of the land use codes, over 350 are non-residential. You can look up rail track, you can look up spacecraft is my favorite, 516, fraternity, sorority house, dormitory, shopping centers, office malls, they're all there. So for Ellie, it's for citizens. My son has a product, Cephas, which is for the Secretary of State, which is capable of adding the private information. So we plan to offer it. Just go to the electorlist.com, which we're going to do now, and we're actually going to play. Here it is. We're going to log in live. We're going to look at what's available. On the dashboard, you get incomplete data, registration address not verified for the post office, those that are verified, non-verified, mailing addresses. And where is this? This is South Dakota. Let's just go in South Dakota to reports. And you'll see for same address, there are 4,319 registered here. And last month they had 4,400. That's September, our last voter roll. Let's click on the first one and you'll see the information about him, but you also see 4,300. But I want to see what that is. So I'll click the Google icon. It'll take me out. It's Dakota Post. Dakota Post is a mailbox or a collection of mailboxes. So let's go back and go out and let's click voter reports and same registration addresses. Let's click America's Way. And there are, it says 614, but that's registered at that post office box. So we want to see how many there are. And there are, well, I want to do it on the other, it's 14,000 people registered at that address. So at 3 addresses, one of them there's 14,000, one of them there's 2,100, and one of them there's 700. So we've got all those addresses. That's just in South Dakota. So let's go play around a little bit. Let's go look at these. We can go to voter rolls and we can pick, I'll pick Texas. And in Texas, at the cases, Texas has 18 million registrants, and they have 7.4 million problem registrations. They have 3.7, 20% have a data error. They have 2.7 million with verified problems. What are they? They're a UPS store, or there's a problem with the street number, or there's an apartment number missing, or there's a commercial mail drop, no chain of custody, wrong address, invalid street name, and almost 500,000. You can take this down to the county level. You can take it down to the precinct level. You can do a fine based on cities, fine based on anything, just simply by clicking the detail, the advanced filter. So here we've got moved. In Texas, there are 1.1 billion people who don't live at the address on the registration address. 351,000 of those have registered in another state. We've got 62,000 who have registered in the other state, registered and voted in the other state. We have 519 who have registered at non-residential property. We can take a look at the drill down on the land use code exempt. We have all these the categories in property tax, property category, these in land use categories. So we have 10,000, almost 11 at public buildings. We have 14,000 retirement centers. We had 100,000 at vacant land. Then we have all this information feeds into the submissions, and the submission shows up in the county election office, and you can submit them to the county election office for them to review. We have a number of counties and a number of states already doing that. Or you can print them out. That's using the coffee and donuts method of I'm being friendly, I'm being volunteer, I want to help. Those that are not friendly, you can print them out as an Excel spreadsheet and submit them as a challenge. Anybody can sign up and get credentials. The voter list, the election elector list.com. I'm open for questions.
We don't have questions, but
Okay.
let everybody know how to reach you again. Very important. This is one of the most important things that we bring up. Yours is phenomenal, and I know you do this for everybody for free pretty much. So thank you so much for doing that. Let everybody know how to get in touch with you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, so we're going to bring on our next guest, Lisa Bennett from Montana. We don't usually get people from Montana, so thank God. She's a state coordinator for election integrity. So come on down, Lisa. You unmuted?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I apologize. That took me an extra step. All right. Thank you for having me on. I just wanted to, I'm not sure if Peter Tickton is still on, but if he is, I hope he makes it as Attorney General. We need a good person like that there. Additionally, I want him to know that the DOJ closed down the FBI investigation into the ballot shredding that happened in the election of November 8, 2022 in Carbon County, Montana. And that really needs to be investigated because the FBI agent that opened up that investigation for 18 months was doxxed and under investigation himself for opening up the investigation. So that shows you just how corrupt our system is. And I just pray that that we can get things fixed. And speaking of which, I want to open up with Proverbs 20:23, which is the Lord detests differing weights and dishonest scales do not please him. And a paraphrase of Exodus 23:29, which is if he got rid of all the corrupt people at once, we would live in a wilderness because that's how many corrupt people there are. So that being the case, I can't say enough that we should open in prayer, and I just hope that God helps us with voter integrity and helps us remove the corrupt officials through these next elections. I also want to say that we've got lots of problems in Montana. Our Secretary of State is very corrupt. She, in my opinion, she, through her office and her minions that work there, and there are lots of people that work in her office that do everything they possibly can to keep the CVRs from people, to convince our elected state legislators that our CVRs are private information that shouldn't be made available to the public, and therefore convince them to vote against laws that the good people in our state are trying to get passed to make those records open to everybody.
We will bring it from Africa to the whole universe.
Hello? Am I still here?
You're still there.
Go ahead.
Please
Okay,
continue.
all right. You know, things that you guys should be aware of too is that our state, Montana, was the guinea pig for Connick. For those of you who don't remember Connick, that was Eugene Yu out of Michigan. He was arrested by the liberal left-wing DA Gascon out of California, who I think, out of LA, who I think only arrested him so that he couldn't get arrested by anyone else, so that they could then let him off the hook and give him $5 million for the arrest, because he actually got a settlement, Eugene did, for that arrest. Connect is the software that many states, I believe over 30 states, use for their overseas UOCAVA ballots. And for those of you who may be aware of Peter Schweitzer's new book, his new book talks about how illegal birth, so this is the 14th Amendment, how people like China come over here with their pregnant wives to give birth so that their children can then become citizens, but they never live here. They go back to China and are raised as communist Chinese, but once they turn 18, they're allowed to vote in our elections through UOCAVA ballots. And proportionally in our state, we're getting more and more people who are not in the military who are allowed to vote in our elections. And this is something everyone should look at, who were never, ever in our country, never, ever here. So we're talking about this birthright tourism thing, which then these people grow up elsewhere, but they're still allowed to vote once they turn 18. That's a big issue in Gallatin County, which is where Bozeman, Montana is located. In the 2024 election against Biden, 80 to 90% of the UOCAVA returns, which once again, most of those are not military people. It's like maybe 40% military, 60% non-military, are coming in voting for Biden. Statistically, that's impossible. When I say Biden, Kamala, Biden, Kamala thing, it's statistically impossible that that could be the case. That so many people would not be voting for Trump in the military, that they would be coming in that hard. And that's one of our bigger counties in our state, even though we're population-wise a small state. These are all things that need to be investigated that haven't been. And one of the most disheartening things from our SOS office is that our citizen group was able to get donations and buy a year-long subscription to the voter roll, which cost $5,000 a year. And we were able to find the duplicate people. So the people that had a married name and a maiden name and were voting or getting ballots twice, or people that had died that were still able to get mail-in ballots because they hadn't been culled off the voter rolls. Well, our Secretary of State decided that they didn't want us to have access to that any longer. So now when we get the voter rolls, they no longer include the birth years. And without the birth years, we can't tell whether this person is the same person when it comes to an obituary or a maiden married name. You kind of need the full thing. So we asked to bring this service inside the Secretary of State's office and have them do this to find the same things that the citizen group were finding, and they refused to bring it in-house and do it. So, I mean, these kind of things tell you that you've got corrupt officials, and Montana is just as corrupt as Texas and Colorado and all these other states. People just think that because we're red and cowboy, that it's a true red, but it's a fake red, just like in Florida and other places that have been mentioned before. I also want to say that when Connect used us as a guinea pig, that was through a Department of Defense grant. So the DOD paid for this to be done. Now, granted, it had to do with military UOCAVA, so maybe you can make the connection that way. But our Secretary of State, Linda McCullough, is now on the board of advisors for Let America Vote, which is one of those radical left-wing groups that basically wants us to vote via text messages, right? So that there's no accountability and you can't trace it. So it goes to show that Montana has kind of put out a lot of these left-wing liberals who've gone on to work under the Obama administration and other groups. And that DOD grant did come under the Obama administration in 2009. So it's all connected and we all have the same issues. We all need to work together and learn from each other so we don't reinvent the wheel here. But I would really like to say to anyone that has any ability to get this investigation into Carbon County, we have on video her shredding. That's why the FBI opened up an investigation. It's hard to get the FBI to open up an investigation into election anything because elections are local. So all that needs to get approval from Washington, D.C. And we need to get this redone. And just anyone that can help with that, you can reach me at 970-926-0216. Or you can email me, Bennett, BENNETT 0707 And because you can't get a fair shake in the press, I have actually started a newspaper, not just an online one, but a physical hard copy newspaper, which groups of volunteers across the state help distribute so that we can educate people because there's no other way to reach people. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. When you're talking about newspapers, I want to thank YourNews.com, Sam Anthony. He's streaming us, but he also writes all kind of articles for us and really helps us all over the country. I want to thank Robin Sachs, who puts it on X for us. and helps us in Maryland and many, many other states. Our next guest is Urson Russell from Orange County, going to talk about what's going on there in California. Urson, come on down.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, California is, just as corrupt as every other state seems to be. The more and more that we're peeling back these layers of our elections, and probably a blessing in some ways that President Trump did lose the 2020 election, because it got a lot of people to start paying attention and asking questions. California, largest populous state, highly centrally controlled by the Secretary of State. Same story, as with every other state. Last 4.5 years going around the state to educate people and bring more awareness, and we've been building momentum. There's been organizations working on this a lot longer than I have in so many different ways. Promoting civic duty and civic engagement is kind of part of like what we are as a fabric of Americans, but we've got to learn those things again. And so through my efforts, which, I can say the same things that everyone else has been saying as far as the voter roll. We had a dog that had a ballot cast for it in one of our California elections. If that doesn't say enough for what the system in California is, that nothing more really needs to be said. So the counties aren't really managing the rolls. It's centrally controlled, pushed through the state. Our national change of address system is broken. Voters on the rolls at 175. And so these stories that we share, and through my travels across the state and not hearing elected officials taking us seriously, willing to do something, telling us that they don't have jurisdiction over elections. That's really what's got me to where I'm going to run for office now and going to run for state assembly. The Constitution in every state is very clear about voting and about the rights of the people and where that process belongs. And so that's really, I'm going to take the time and the effort and everything that I've done and worked on election integrity and really build that into my campaign as a candidate, in educating the citizens and bringing about this change through the local level that I can impact, as opposed to what I've been trying to do across the state for the last 4.5 years. It's a tremendous effort, building out a statewide organization and effort. And so I think a lot, especially in California, where we have counties from 1,100 people, our smallest county, to 10 million people, LA County. There's a lot of different local movements that have grown over the last 4 years. And I think that's probably our greatest strength, to be able to compete in California and get some local elected leadership into office. One thing I would say about our state government, it's a supermajority of one party of Democrats in our state legislature, and they clearly control the whole entire executive branch. We have 80 state assembly members and 40 state senators. So we have 120 people maximum that are deciding with the stroke of the governor's pen for 40 million people here in the diversity we have across all of our counties in population and lifestyles and other things. So I think that's nonsense for Californians. We really need to wake up and realize that 120 people passed 1,600 bills in the last 2-year legislative session in California. Nobody's life has improved in the last 8 years. Our energy costs have gone from about 20 cents a kilowatt to 32 cents a kilowatt. Everything is heading in the wrong direction. So we need, as citizens, to make sure that we're holding the candidates that we're going to go out and support and vote for. And we need to meet with them. We need to go to their events. We need to have face-to-faces to where to bring back the Constitution first and foremost, front and center. And that's important to me because if they're going to swear the oath, and the California Constitution is going to mean just as much as the U.S. Constitution does to this candidate that's willing to fight for us, voting, Article 2 is for voting. And the very first thing that it says is all political power is inherent in the people. It's in our California Constitution. So if we can start to get local leadership, city councils, school boards. We had a bill passed here, Assembly Bill 1955, that was going to compel, force, maybe even prosecute teachers if they were to be honest with parents about confused gender ideology in their children. Thankfully, parts of it have been overturned. The point is, over half our cities or a majority of our school boards should have all been putting out resolutions as those local bodies to say there is no way in God's green earth we're going to allow teachers to lie to parents about anything, because this body, this community stands for parents' rights first always. So we're going to keep going and fighting for election integrity, more transparency. We've got one city that wanted voter ID and their community voted for it, Huntington Beach. Yet the state has been nonstop using our own tax dollars to take them to court to stop that from happening. On a good note, for the November election, we have the voter ID initiative that was put out by Reform California, and that got way more than the signatures to qualify. In addition, it has some citizenship requirements and some other things tied to it. And that really has tremendously good polling in California, even with such a heavy Democratic voting population. So that is something, whether the SAVE Act passes in Congress or doesn't, that is certainly something that would be a tremendous step forward. I would also just remind people with an air of caution that we've had other legislation and propositions that we have passed where one single judge goes and overrules it as unconstitutional. So does that fight continue if that happens up to the U.S. Supreme Court? Those are things that will have to remain to be seen if and when it does pass. So a lot of efforts. I would encourage either the people that are involved and that are educating themselves about this to maybe run for local office or maybe get on one of the commissions, get close, build relationships with your local city council. Everyone that swears an oath of office, even an animal control officer, swears an oath to protect the California Constitution. And if there's questions about our election systems, every elected official that swears an oath or a teacher that swears an oath, anyone should have every right to openly ask questions and get full transparency. I heard about the cost of access to some of the voter rolls in other states. Ours, believe it or not, and what you would think is one of the most corrupt states in the union from a government, ours is $100, to get the entire state voter rolls with inactive, active, and canceled. So we have a tremendous amount of data that's of huge benefit to us in California, but we have a very centrally controlled system that just continues to erode people's trust, because over and over again we bring these things up and nothing seems to change in a direction of transparency and accountability. It seems to always be changed towards Shasta County doesn't want to use machines to count vote. The state forces an urgency statute to force that. Huntington Beach wants to have ID. The state forces them not to do that. So that's, I think, the kind of reactionary stuff that people are waking up to, of saying like, well, God, like, what's the big deal with voter ID and those things? We're going to continue to fight to clean the rolls, to get that control back into the county's hands. We're going to continue to educate people on these as we canvass and knock on doors. And most importantly, I think we need to find the right candidates that are going to build election integrity into their campaign and into their promises to their constituents. It really have to wake up our future elected officials and get them to commit to that. So that's what I'm doing. That's what's going on here. And so many people giving tens and tens of thousands of hours of their precious time throughout this state for this. I just want to encourage everybody. We have a primary coming up. It's about 30% turnout. We can really win some county elections and some other strategic elections outright in our primary. And even if you think the system is rigged, even if you think your vote doesn't count, we ask you to please participate. And the reason is you help create evidence, you help create momentum. And without that, you really are tying our hands towards the type of work that we're all giving our lives to. So God bless everybody, every state, their efforts. And let's continue, Steve, your whole group, bringing people together, educating the way that you guys have been doing. God bless you. Keep you safe and healthy. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
You got it. Thanks very much. Our next guest, my good friend, Jeff Clark. It's yourgovernment.org, a former White House staffer, very close to President Trump. Always invites me to the White House, but unfortunately had a back operation, couldn't make it. So we'll have to wait till he gets back in there again. Come on down, Jeff. Raj, you want to unmute him?
Go ahead and unmute Jeff. He may have stepped away from, he's not responding. He may have stepped away.
I got it.
his-
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can. You're on.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks, Steve. Always good to see you and Raj. And I'm glad to be here. As you noted, I left the White House about a month ago, and now I'm in my new role as the Vice President of Litigation of the Oversight Project. And our goal is to, just as our motto says, that it's your government, and we want to make it more accountable. I have been spearheading various litigation things there, and I also testified to the Senate a couple weeks ago about Operation Arctic Frost, and it was the same day that there were revelations about another nefarious operation that was conducted during the Biden administration called Operation Rampart 12, where they had a crazy theory that there were Republican members of Congress trying to give their constituents tours, and that was a way of allowing the insurrectionists to understand the layout of the Capitol. When that theory collapsed, the DOJ lawyers who were working on it shed a lot of tears about that. But given the focus on election integrity here, let me focus my efforts and my remarks here, I should say, on what we're doing in that front. So we have a case that we're working on in Michigan that I should not give a lot of details about now, but let's say it's about cleaning the voter rolls. But just last Friday, we filed a new case in federal court in the District of Arizona against Adrian Fontes, the Secretary of State, for putting out an election manual that is giving far too much power to individual polling places to just decide that someone should be ejected from the voting place and therefore not allowed to speak. And I'm sorry, not allowed to vote. There are two main provisions we put our finger on as unconstitutional. One is the idea that if you're a law enforcement officer, you can't show up to vote on voting day in your uniform, even though you might be coming off like a double shift or something like that. It's if the election official at that polling place, and obviously many of them might be controlled by Democrats in particular places, they could say, well, I feel intimidated, and on that basis, I'm going to exclude you from voting. So we're challenging that as a violation of free speech, as a violation of due process, and as a violation of equal protection, because their standards are far too arbitrary. They're just in the eye of the beholder standards, where someone who wants to try to prevent someone who they kind of guess is more likely a Republican voter from voting, they can just basically eject them and keep them from voting. The other provision that we've made and placed at the heart of this lawsuit especially is the fact that you're prohibited from electioneering within a certain relatively close distance to the polling place. But outside of it, you're permitted to do electioneering. If you're someone working for the local county Republican Party, who's the plaintiff in our case, you can stand outside the 70 feet or so, and you can give people flyers. You can speak to them. You can advocate for your candidate or candidates. And this is a major protected First Amendment right, that you have a right to speak about political matters, to urge, who you recommend should be voted for. And the way that Adrian Fontes, the Democrat Secretary of State in Arizona, is trying to attack that is that he's saying in his manual that if your electioneering is audible within the polling place, even if it's outside the legal parameter of a prohibited small zone right around the polling place that the legislature established, then the polling place runners can decide to exclude you as well. So that's another violation of free speech, another violation of the traditional freedoms to vote that we have experienced. And I don't know about all of you, but when I go to my polling place, right, I see a lot of electioneering things. I hear people speaking on both sides, and this is a healthy part of the American system. And so to have a voting manual that's just put together by the Democrat Secretary of State, and then signed off on by the Democrat Attorney General, is something that we think is unconstitutional and really strongly impinges on our constitutional rights and on healthy competition in the voting system. So there are a lot of ways that, to use the broad term, cheat, that Democrats try to cheat. And this new way of using a voting manual to give authority to local polling place officials to decide, they don't like that you're wearing a uniform, or they don't like that they happen to hear the name of the, Republican candidate outside in the parking lot, is just, something ridiculous that we want to see struck down. And we just filed the lawsuit, like I said. So, I don't have a report for you about how the lawsuit is faring, but I urge you to watch it. Again, it's been filed in Arizona, and we expect it to get a lot of attention. So, in terms of the oversight project, let me make the pitch that, look, we have lawyers, we have policy people. We testify to Congress. Probably our biggest claim to fame at this point is that through FOIA, we uncovered all the information about the Biden auto pen. And one of our board members, Theo Wold, testified to Congress about that, shed light on that. We think that calls into question many of the pardons that Joe Biden granted using the auto pen. For instance, the pardon to Anthony Fauci. In addition to lawyers and policy people, like I said, we also have investigators. We have, former members of the law enforcement and intelligence community, and, they are constantly looking for nefarious things that are hiding on the web, hiding in group chats and the like, so that they can bring those to the fore and expose them to the American people. And the last thing I guess I would say is that, look, if you are a whistleblower inside a government entity or inside a corporation, and you think what's happening is not above board, is illegal, is corrupt, is trying to bias things against the Republican Party, against conservatives, against people who have free speech rights that you want to see protected, then feel free to go to our website. It's yourgov.org, ITSYOURGOV.org. And with that, Steve, I turn it back to you.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is my good friend Linda Sinkowitz, who's been with me from the beginning. FightVoterFraud.org. She is with OBBM Network. She was with me down at Trump International, my co-host. Fantastic. We love her. Come on down.
Thank you, Steve, for that wonderful introduction. I again want to thank also Raj. The two of you put on such a phenomenal program with so many different speakers. I mean, every time I listen, I'm learning something more. But what we want to talk about today is what Fight Voter Fraud has decided to do. We have our program Syncowitz, which is spelled phonetically, SYNC-O-WICZ. And we're in our second season, and we have guest hosts that come on, and then we talk about the 5 different states, national stuff that goes on, international stuff. Everything has to do with elections. Well, a few weeks ago, we decided to launch a new series that I'm sure everyone should be excited about. It's called Syncowitz Presents Candidate Spotlight. We are offering 20-minute interviews for any candidate that wants to be interviewed. Doesn't matter what they're running for. We joke, we don't care if we're running for dog catcher. We want to help as many candidates as possible by doing this 20-minute video. You know, we tape it, just so you know, we tape it ahead of time. We get your assets, whatever you want added. And then I have a wonderful producer, Tim, who adds the rest of the graphics. The stuff looks so professional on what he does. So if you have any candidate that you would want to have them do a 20-minute interview, they can email me at Linda, Linda, at fightvoterfraud.org. You can also go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org. You can send it through info as well. Steve has been sending me some tremendous people. I'll tell you, I have been having such a wonderful time with all these candidates. Some of them are newbies and some of them are seasoned. But again, we're very excited to do this. It doesn't matter where you are. In fact, we've been doing a lot of California people, and we're actually on the East Coast here in Connecticut. So once it is done, and it does take us probably 4 or 5 days to put the program together because we're doing so many of them and it takes a lot of time. What we do is then we push it out. We put it on OBBM Network TV, Rumble, we put it on YouTube, Spotify, but we also send it to the candidate. And the candidate themselves can also push it out to their constituents. So it can be very specific on where they want their information to go. So one of the things we are telling people is we don't charge for this at all. We're a nonprofit. Fightvoterfraud.org is the one that's putting this on. But we do encourage people to make a voluntary donation because it takes about 6 hours from when we interview the person to when we have the final product. So it would really help us out. But like I said, anybody who wants to have their candidates, have a 20-minute interview, just send me an email, Linda at fightvoterfraud.org. I can also give you my phone number, but I would prefer a text message because I'm constantly getting phone calls. And that phone number is 860-575-7125. So again, it's 860-575-7125. And you can send me an email, send me a text. You could be the candidate. You can refer a candidate. I do get back to absolutely everyone. Right now, we are booking tapings, I think May 18th. That's how far we're out right now. For our booking times. So if you're interested, we encourage you to do it soon. We do plan on doing this right through October. We really want, again, these midterms are extremely important. And any way that we can help out, we want to be able to help everyone. So I guess, Steve, that's pretty much it right now.
Well, terrific. We're always glad to have you. Have a lovely Mother's Day.
Thank you, Steve.
You got it. Our next person up is Patrice Johnson, founder of Michigan Fair Elections. We've been trying to get her on for a long time. We finally got her. So come on down. Now, you know that we have people from all over the country. Somebody said, we have a lot of different speakers, Linda. We try to get people from all over. We need your help. If you have somebody in your state that you'd like to get on, email me. We'll speak to them, see if we can get them on our next one. Also, we're looking for new podcasters. We have 150 podcasters, of which not everybody streams it every time, but certainly we have a great cast of podcasters. And every time you add podcasters, you get anywhere from 100 people to 10,000 people. Somebody just texted me that they sent it over to somebody that's got 250,000 people that are on their site. So it's so important, because the more people that learn about this and what we do, the more important it is. Remember, we're doing this for 5 years. We started when President Trump asked to do this, and we started with 500 people, and now we got millions. So it's very important. Patrice, come on down.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Raj. It's very nice to be here, and I really enjoyed listening to folks, learning a great deal. So thank you. Yeah, I thought Steve and I talked a little bit about it's a really important issue in Michigan, and that is what we published a report. The full report is 212 pages, but we did a condensed edition, and that's 20 pages, and then we have an executive summary. They're all available on our website in the library. It's at myfairelections.org. And what the issue is that Michigan has a system for catching rules that violate the law. The problem is that this system is broken and it's not lawful. And because of that, we have actually four rule sets now with apparent federal, state, and constitutional violations. So they're in effect, and they will govern every race in this November election coming up. And in Michigan, we have an incredibly important election. We have 13 U.S. House seats, a U.S. Senate seat, the governor's seat, the Attorney General, Secretary of State, all 148 legislative seats, and 2 Supreme Court justices are all on the ballot this fall. So it's a very critical election, and these rules are changing the very foundation of our electoral process. They're terribly undermining to election integrity. So as an example, just to give you a little background, Michigan has 2 checkpoints. We have what's called the Michigan Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules. And then we also have JCAR, which is the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. But MOHAR was created, it was never authorized by law. It was created by executive order back in 1995 by Governor Engler, and every governor, all 4 governors since him, have renewed their version of this dual rulemaking system by executive order. And this new one that we currently have under Governor Whitmer also added oversight for elections, and also added hearings. And then they hired judges, but the judges don't even report into the judicial side of the government. They report into the executive branch. So MOHAR is dependent on the executive branch for its funding. Its staff is dependent on the governor's will, and it has none of the 5 standard checkpoints. So we went through and compared Michigan to, there are 24 states altogether that use this dual checkpoint system, and Michigan is the only one that is not founded in law, that is founded by executive order only, and it doesn't have any of the 5 standard checkpoints that the other states have. It doesn't have Senate confirmation. It doesn't have fixed terms of office, no qualification requirements. There's no budget independence. MOHAR has none of these. So for that reason, MOHAR scores 0 out of 5 points when we compared it to 23 other states. And the 23 other states averaged, on average, 65% adoption of the 5 standard independence protections. Michigan gets 0. So we're a complete, utter outlier. So imagine if you had a referee who was never officially hired. He has no job description. He can be fired by the coach whose team he's calling fouls on, and also gets to rule on any appeals after the game. That is Michigan's MOHAR. That's the situation we're in. And the problem now with JCAR is that the other rulemaking office is that it can't veto any rules, and it can't even establish a quorum. So last year when these rule sets were coming up, JCAR couldn't even get a quorum to make a vote. And even if they did vote, they couldn't stop them. So we've gotten ourselves in a situation where the Secretary of State, who heads up the Michigan Department of State, has free reign over issuing all the rules over our elections. And she's gone way beyond, just to back up a little bit, Steve, the Secretary of State is chartered with administering the elections, as most people know. But her job is to only administer the law of the elections. She's not by law allowed to make her own laws. And when they do, that's called ultra vires, when they go beyond their authority. And she has gone beyond her authority in a lot of these rules. There are 40 rules already that have taken effect. And of those, a large number are ultra vires. So the package is advanced with 40 provisions altogether. And just to give you an example, Rule Set 14 requires the clerks to erase their poll books 7 days after an election is certified. Well, that might sound to somebody who's not following elections as well, who cares? It matters a lot because it's the election records, and the federal law requires all election records to be kept for 24 months, 22 months at the minimum. So it's a complete direct violation of federal law. This is the clearest case. Another Rule Set 13 creates two classes of voters, which is also against the law. We're all supposed to be equal. But if you are an overseas civilian, you are exempt. You cannot be challenged. Your registration cannot be challenged according to these rules. Whereas if you're a regular citizen, if you moved out of state or you've died, or maybe you just moved locations, you're in another county, your registration can be challenged by a citizen. Here, you cannot do that for overseas civilians. So it's crazy is what it actually is. And it contradicts our Attorney General's own opinion. Our Attorney General clearly said in Rule 7322 that overseas military, yes, they are distinct from overseas civilians because they have different situations. And overseas military need to be given more latitude, but not overseas civilians, for Pete's sakes. We can't even verify that they're citizens, let alone that they're alive or that they're citizens or that they have any residency in Michigan whatsoever. Another crazy rule set that went into effect just today, as a matter of fact, is Rule Set 15. And Rule Set 15 compels poll challenger training. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting poll challenger training. That's great. All the organizations that train poll challengers, that have poll challengers, train them. But what this rule does is it says you have to use government provided materials. So you've got compelled speech here. You've got free speech being trampled on because the government cannot force citizens to adopt the government's message. But that's what they're doing here. And to put on top of that another problem, our Secretary of State will not turn over her clerk training manual to the legislature. So they can't even see what they're training. So the legislature has subpoenaed the Secretary of State, and they're in court. So it's even if they pass this law, we will never know what the rules are supposed to be if they don't release those rules. So it defies the imagination. This other rule set that just came to be is Rule Set 63. And Rule Set 63 expands the Secretary of State's authority over the Board of State Canvassers. They're a totally independent agency. They are not supposed to have the Secretary of State appointing assistants to them. But this is what the Secretary of State is doing in Rule Set 63. She's imposing her assistants into that independent body. And it's not just the Board of State Canvassers, it's also to the clerks. She will be able to provide assistance to the clerks, whether they want it or not, they'll be getting assistance. And we all know what assistance means when it comes to the government assisting. So there's a whole constitutional issue running through these rule set issues. Michigan's own constitution says that all executive offices must be allocated by law, meaning the legislature has to pass statute allowing MOHAR, the Michigan Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules, to exist. It never did. And it's been this way for 30 years. But now it's metastasized into controlling our elections, as well as to controlling the clerks, and as well as the Board of State Canvassers. So it's mutating and getting worse actually by the day, because the Secretary of State has realized that these rule sets cannot be stopped. That's why we did the investigation. We were fighting these crazy rule sets and thought, well, of course they'll change these. We were pointing out the federal laws that are being violated, the state laws that are being violated. And they went through anyway and went into effect. And when they go into effect, these aren't just rules that are in effect. They have the force of law. They have the force of law. So that means this is why you have people like Stephanie Lambert, a clerk on the western side of the state, being sued for violating a rule that had the force of law from the Secretary of State. And this is government gone wild. It's what we've got here, government gone wild. And interestingly enough, Florida under Scott, I'm forgetting the governor, Governor Scott. Anyway, he tried this. He had a similar system as Mohar, but within the state they sued him, and he lost. And the Supreme Court in Florida said, no, you can't do this. This is executive branch overreach, so they took it down. But Michigan hasn't had its system challenged, and that's what we'd really like to see, the system challenged. The remedies exist. The problem is fixable. The question is whether these can be fixed before the November election. There are legislative fixes. If the legislature said, okay, Mohar has to comport with independent standards, it cannot report into the executive branch and be responsible and be beholden to the governor.
1 minute, Patrice, 1 minute.
Oh, okay. Judicial fixes, there are federal fixes. And so anyway, I encourage you to look at our website, mifairelections.org, go to the library, join our blog, sign up and follow us. So, and of course, we'd love you to donate. So thank you very much, Steve. Thank
you very much. Have a happy Mother's Day. Next up is Rob Mancini from Pennsylvania, technology guy. We'll give you some great information. Rob,
thank you for having me on the show. I'm Robert Mancini. I have a bunch of technical certs, but we won't get into that right now. I want to talk about ballot security. When you get an absentee ballot in Delaware County, you get to fill out your ballot, place it in a secrecy envelope, and then you ship it to Delaware County. Delaware County takes the envelope, separates the ballot and the ballot inside the envelope, and so that you cannot link these two. But there is a big problem. On the ballot, if you can see, are barcodes. These barcodes, one of them contains a unique identifier that links this ballot to this voter, which is me. Now, PA Supreme Court has ruled that ballots without the secrecy envelope are to be discarded. That was in the Democratic Party versus Bachvar in the Pennsylvania court. Basically, Delaware County has printed barcodes on its ballots that violate the civil rights of every voter in Delaware County. Furthermore, I filed a right to know request with the PA Department of State about these barcodes, and they know nothing about it. So my county has gone rogue. They can now tell how voters vote, which is against the law. I'm not even going to count how many federal or state statutes it's against, but it's bad. And this is what I'm fighting in Delaware County. My second process is through a bunch of Freedom of Information Acts. In Pennsylvania, they're called Right to Know Acts. I got the software that was on our machine, which is a HART 2.7. Now, election machines are critical infrastructure, which means the software on there can only be approved software, whereas your computer, your cell phone is not critical infrastructure, so you can download any software you want. Your virus protection identifies software that's not allowed to be on it, which would be called blacklisting. On critical infrastructure, it's a process called whitelisting, that only the software that was approved by the approving agency is allowed to be on there. The approving agency in this case is both the EAC, the Election Assistance Commission, and the Pennsylvania Department of State. On Delaware County's machine, there is a program called MathNet.Numerics, which is an open source software designed specifically for manipulating data. This appears nowhere in the Election Assistance Commission certification of the HART 2.7 or on their website. This does not appear in the Pennsylvania certification of the machines. This software does not belong on there. So these two in sight together means you can take a ballot with a barcode, use the MathNet.Numerics with the barcode, and replace the person's vote. I am currently involved in a lawsuit with Delaware County, CV-2025-010541, about the CVRs, the absentee ballots, and all the files, which the law grants on my side, and a recent PA Supreme Court ruling in Honey also grants me these. Delaware County does not want to give them up because they say I'm not entitled. The importance in these CVRs are, for you tech guys, are PDFs with their own hash codes. So I will be able to tell with these CVRs, if they're unredacted and I get all the metadata, if Delaware County flipped votes. This goes right to Federal Election Law 21081A2, the audit capacity of a machine. These reports will allow me to audit the machine in Delaware County, their votes, and Delaware County does not want to give them up. This is the 6th time Delaware County has sued me over election requests. I've lost every one because try explaining to a judge who has no technical certification what a hash code is. You could teach a graduate level mathematics course on a hash code. But every voter who's watching has a homework assignment. If your ballot has a barcode on it, can you see the barcode? If it has a barcode on it, you need to file a Freedom of Information Act with your county and ask what's encoded in that barcode. Because if they're encoding a unique identifier which links you to your ballot, they're violating your civil rights. I'm a federal whistleblower. I filed a bunch of lawsuits. You have the right to do this. It's not a privilege, it's a right. And the voters need to get involved, and you need to get involved at the grassroots level if you want to change this system. They can cheat so many ways. I myself, with the use of ChatGPT, wrote a Python script that could change the vote based on this barcode. And I could insert it inside the election machines because they do not follow the procedures of whitelisting the software on the machines, and flip 1 out of 10 votes. If you flip 1 out of 10 votes in 3 counties in Pennsylvania, you flipped the state of Pennsylvania from one color to the other, because it's only 10,000 vote different between Republican and Democrat. Do you have any questions, Steve?
No, we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Raj,
for having me on.
You're welcome. Raj. See if Raj is there.
Stand by.
Raj, can you put Ohio Amy's video on for 1 minute?
Copy that. Stand by. Okay, Amy, you're unmuted. Stand by for Ohio Amy video now.
Hi, I can't play the video. I had sent it to you and Steve, but I'll go ahead and take the minute and just.
Here we go.
Stay Awake America Tour. Next stop, Washington, D.C. Join us May 16th. Register today at stayawakeamerica.com. That's stayawakeamerica.com. Unite, engage, and activate. Local action for national impact, all for the glory of God. Join us, learn the truth, and leave with detailed solutions. Register today at stayawakeamerica.com. Stay awake, America, because America is counting on you.
Amy, when is that going to be taking place? Unmute.
Sorry, that's May 16th in Washington, D.C. And then our group will be heading over to the National Mall on the 17th to join Trump in the rededication of America to God. So we'd love everybody to come. This is our 7th event. So if you haven't been able to catch one of our events, this is number 7, and we'd love for you to join us. So Washington, D.C. at the National Union Building, but you'll find all the details on the website and register at stayawakeamerica.com.
Thank you very much. Our next guest is Stan Woodward, famous from Dallas, Texas. I believe Dallas or Fort Worth, precinct chair. Very important, been on Bannon a number of times, a lot of channels. Come on down, Stan.
Come on down. Well, it's been an interesting day. I don't know, the last time I was on here, we were talking about hand counting, which was a while back, but that was last year. Some of you guys know, some of you don't. We had 2 resolutions we passed back in September. Overwhelming majority, like 220 plus people stood up and passed 2 resolutions, one for precinct only voting on election day. That's in our right in the Texas election code to do that. And we wanted to try a hand count. We couldn't get the hand count done. So we elected, though, to stay with precinct only voting. And on March 3rd, we had a primary. And now we published up receipts that show that both the county and the state knew that both the poll book and the team software update was compromised. We have emails we published online that show that they all knew that this was going to cause problems. There were letters from Texas County Association of Election Administrators to the Secretary of State, red flag warnings. People may get sent to the wrong locations. There may be wrong information. This was all the way back in October of last year. And then we show up on March 3rd and there's all this chaos. And then 16 media outlets go out as if in lockstep, coordination, and blame it all on the Republicans in Dallas. So all of the chaos on primary election day was because of Republicans wanting to do precinct voting. So that's what the public heard. Okay. The reality was that we had a lot of complaints. There was some chaos, but once we figured out that they had published up wrong information, we started using our link, and they had all these navigators they'd hired, and almost 5,000 Republicans showed up to vote, which was a record turnout. So we did a good job of messaging, getting the word out to show up to vote. A non-presidential primary, just for you guys out of sight of Texas, is like around 85 or 90,000 people. So we had a good, strong turnout, but the county and the state caused all this chaos and then blame it on us. And then 2 weeks later, our chair on his own rips up the contract and unilaterally decides to go countywide voting. So we've been in the 5th Circuit Court, District Court. We just had our second appeal dismissed today, and all we wanted was some injunctive relief to go enforce the contract. And in state election law here, I think it's section 273.061 provides for, a mandamus relief, from a court of appeals. And we talked to 3 of the top lawyers in the state, and they said, yeah, go to the 5th Circuit, go look for an emergency petition of mandamus to go enforce the contract. And these are straight up, legal things and avenues you can take, not just in Texas. I'm just a precinct chair. And so I'm one of several people who were relators on this petition. And for the second time today, we got kicked back. So it's very disappointing because it shows really that there's no court that really wants to touch this down here. And so we're, flying essentially on our own. And then we all this Texas election law, we have all this code, we have all this training. We go to law seminars in the summer, we spend all kinds of money, and yet there is literally no redress. There's no cavalry coming. There's no judge that'll touch it. And it's just very disappointing. I run software companies, and I sign contracts, and so we abide by our contracts or we get sued. Or we get the vendor or whoever it is pulls out, we lose the contract. In this case, there's literally no redress. There's no injunctive relief, nothing. So I didn't want to just drop a huge, negative bomb on the group today. Everybody on here, though, I'm looking at who's on here, has been through this so many times. So we're not going to quit. We're not stopping. We're going to go sit down with the county and see what they want to do. This is, by the way, this is our primary. It's Texas election code. I think it's 123.0.011. It's even Article 6. It's like the power of the primary rests with the county executive committee. And this goes back like at least to 1960 in Texas, but this is primordial soup in election law, that precinct chairs have the power over the contracts for their primary. And what we're finding out here today is, well, I don't think we do. We think we do, as long as the county wants to go along with it. And so I guess what I would say to everybody is there's very easy legal steps to take that will at least surface where you stand. And I think we just surfaced where we stand, at least in Dallas County. But if you're in Texas and you see this, you're like, well, if I'm a chair and I'm not acting right, I can go collude with my county, election administrator. We can do whatever we want. You can just, smash the CEC. So this is going to have to go further. I don't know how it will go further. There's several ways to do it, but it is disappointing. I think the exciting thing, in a good sense, is that it has organized a whole lot of people down here. It's forced people to read election law. How many people know election law? It's hard. I didn't before last summer. So we're not going to give up. We're going to keep pushing. We have 3 weeks before our primary runoff. And if you can believe this, the court in one part of their reply said, well, we don't have any jurisdiction over an election that hasn't happened. Well, it's the primary. You have the primary election, the primary runoff. It's the primary. It's one thing. And we're actually right in the middle of a process. It's called the primary. And so they're like, well, we can't rule on something that hadn't happened. Well, how many times have we all heard that? Right? Just like cleaning up these poll books, I heard somebody talking about the 7-day rule. That's 7 days they have to clean everything up, redact everything, get rid of everything, after an election. After an election, it's too late. It's just too late. And in the countywide, as you guys know, all the votes are just jumbled up. You can't do a recount. You can't do an audit. Okay. At least with precinct level voting, which is how we voted here until about, I think, 2018 or 2019. All the votes go in solo cups and caps go on the solo cups and all get sent downtown. And if you want to do an audit or recount, you can pick cups and dump the votes out, and it's easier to deal with versus all the votes just being in one big tub. And you can easily cheat. You can easily rig countywide. Everybody knows that. It's just one big wide open, field to go, use whatever trick you want to use. So we're trying to preserve the constitutional rights of both Republicans and Democrats down here. And that's what really got lost during this. Oh, this is the Republicans causing chaos. We're just standing for the constitutional rights of the voters to vote in a constitutional election, which is precinct only. Countywide's not, because you cannot preserve the secrecy of the ballot. And you can audit it. If it's in a tight runoff, you can audit it. You can't do it in countywide. And so that's all we were trying to do. And so that's my report. And it's not a great one, but I'll say that we're not giving up. We have a lot of people that in our precinct chair base that understand what this issue is and the importance of it, and have been behind us the whole way. So again, appreciate your support for having us on here. It's unfortunate what's happened with our former chair and with the county. And I hope that we can find some redress and find a path to, enforce our contract and anybody's contract going forward.
Thank you very much. Again, let's point out our precinct projectusa.org. One of the most important things, we have your good friend, Miss Katz, who's listening on the War Room. She's one of the people that people will contact in Texas. So if you go to precinctprojectusa.org and sign up today, you'll get some great information. We have tons of people on it. Every week we call people, get them to sign up. They get a lot of information. Next up on our program is Jake Kaminsky, Secure the Vote in Maryland. We don't have too many people come in Maryland, but I want to thank my friend Robin Sachs, who's spreading the word. My two daughters played tennis for Maryland, so I love Maryland. My granddaughter's going there now. So let's hope we can turn Maryland to red someday. That's all we can do. Jay, you want to come down?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so I'm telling my story because I didn't even know who our sheriff was in Frederick County, Maryland 6 years ago. I didn't know anything about politics. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a data person, but what I have tried to do, and I started in Virginia, and I got a call from one of my clients. I have a small business that just started here in Maryland, DC, Virginia, and it's spread out to 14 states. Why did it do that? Because everyone's moving out of Maryland. And I said, what the heck is going on in Maryland? Well, the taxes have gone up. We've got Westmore as the governor, and we've got an election board director that does not want to take anyone off the voter rolls. So what I've done was I've started to knock on doors, and we've organized a group of people at the local board that we started with 4, and I'm with Secure the Vote MD. So our fearless leader, Kate Sullivan, has organized a group that meets every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on a Zoom call. And we have sued the state. I know that the Department of Justice has asked Jared DeMarinis is the problem with Maryland, and he is just refusing to get up the voter rolls. So I personally, what I've done was I've started to grow this list. And to date, I've knocked on over 12,000 doors. And what I've done is, like when Mark Cook came to town last week, we had a sign-up list. I added 8 new people to our list. I've told my 11,000 clients in 14 states about what we're doing to try to get them plugged in. And every single meeting that we have, women's group, we have a local Republican women's club in Frederick County, which is the oldest women's club in the nation. We have a conservative club. We have, for the first time in Frederick County, Maryland history, we have a candidate for every position. Why is that important? Because if someone doesn't run against you in the primary, and we have a senatorial race right here where the Democratic candidate has raised 82,000, she could spread that money around to the other candidates. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that we have all the candidates' positions filled. So we also have a team. I'm very proud of our Secure the Vote Maryland team headed by Kate. We have data people. We have dove into the exact cast vote records. And we have found that 50,000 people in Maryland die per year, but 383 were taken off the voter rolls. We have 5 counties in Maryland that have more registered voters than actual voters. And we have data people that have identified this. We made it part of our lawsuit. We've had 2 rallies in Annapolis. We went down to the Senate building and knocked on doors to make them aware of the problem. And we also have an individual on our team that listened to every Board of Election meeting in every county for the last 5 years. And come to find out, there's only 15 reasons you can go into closed session after a Board of Election meeting. So there's the Open Meetings Act, and there's a board, and that separate board has managed through our group to identify 38 violations of the Open Meetings Act. Our individual board never recorded the meeting. Our individual Board of Elections never had a report. Now, fast forward, I'm a chief judge for a couple times this year, and our goal is parity. And we're coming at the state, we're coming at the local boards to get Republican judges. I have businesses in the area. One of them has obtained 450 petitions for our state lawsuit. We have about 16 different businesses in Frederick County that are getting out the word to recruit Republicans. When Mark Cook came to town with his hand count paper ballot roadshow, we had people. He's going all over the state of Maryland right now, and we're just recruiting people to grow it. I'm like a Brett commercial. I recruit 2, and then I recruit 10, and then I've recruited 2,000. And then we use Kate's site, we use Robin Sachs' site to put the word out. And we're just continuing to beat the drum and get the newbie who, like me, 5-6 years ago, didn't know anything about elections, but is just an advocate to bring more people in there and get out the vote. 22% of registered Republicans in Frederick County voted in 2022. The reason Trump got in, he was too big to fail. And so that's what we're trying to make it here. There's a local Board of Education person here, Heather Fletcher. She has managed to go around to all the candidates and get all of their palm cards in the bags. Every Thursday, we stuff about 750 bags, and every Saturday go to a different location for all the candidates. And this is just getting the word out, and that is the key. People are losing hope. They're moving out of the state, but I'm staying and fighting. And I think Secure the Vote MD is making a huge. We're on the radar, and we've got some great candidates running this time. And I'm just proud to be the part of it all. So that's my spiel.
Thank you very much. Want to thank some of the people while we got a couple of minutes before we get our next guest on. I want to thank Norm from TotalNews.com in San Diego. He's got a tremendous online paper, very close to him. Been out in San Diego with him many times. Please go to TotalNews.com and put it on your phone. Dale Richardson from Canada, the Karis Report. Daniel Walker, 302 podcaster from Louisiana. Steve Shear from New York. Jody Cox, just Jody, one of my first, I interviewed her. She interviewed me, our first programs. Joel Altman from Untamed Nation. Murray Edwards, the newscasters. Scott McKay. S.G. Annan, one of our best podcasters, gets 20, maybe 12 to 20,000. Rumble, we're on the front page. And my good friend, Voice of the People. Everybody go to Voice of the People, Dan Schmiligo. He is our #1 podcaster, never fails us. He's on night and day, really hardworking guy. We love him. Our next guest is my good friend, John Goodman. We're going to play a video after he talks, but he has worked with me for numerous years. He always is our backup in case somebody doesn't show up. So we put him on last if we have to, but everything he does is unbelievable. He spends many hours in the library researching things for many of the people. He has been instrumental in the EOs that President Trump is doing. So John, come on down, my good friend.
Thank you, Steve. And I thank you for being such a loyal friend and mentor of me. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I know a lot of my Republican friends are very down and out about the SAVE Act not passing. And a lot of Republicans that I know are pretty much saying we're in trouble in November. But there is a plan that was developed. I watch Wayne Allen Root's show at night. He's talking about elections a lot. And I said to Steve Stern, put me in touch with Wayne Allen Root if you'll do that for me, Steve. And Steve Stern gave me his contact information. And then I said, Steve, I don't know Wayne Allen Root. Please come on a 3-way call, please. And on a Sunday morning, Steve Stern came on a three-way call with me and Wayne Allen Root, and me and Wayne have become friends. And Wayne presented an idea to me to end the rigged elections. It was in raw form. It needed to check constitutionality. It needed to check also whether it could be done before the midterms. And of course, no courts and no Democrat obstruction. That sounds like a tall order. Well, we, after a lot of research and working together, we have come up with something that I think you're going to find absolutely extraordinary. So when Amy just said she wants real solutions, Stan didn't have great news. I want to give him some. Linda Sinkowitz, who's wonderful, said, let us know if she can help. So this is Wayne Root unveiling our plan on his show last week. Please listen very closely. Flood the chat with your ideas and your feedback on this. This really is the last hope because nothing else is going to make it in time. All right.
250 years ago, a nation was born, built on courage, driven by freedom, defined by patriots who stood their ground. Today, we don't just remember that legacy, we wear it. This is more than a shirt. It's a symbol of strength, freedom, and pride. I'm Steve Stern, COO of theflagshirt.com, and I invite you to celebrate 250 years of the United States with us. Wear your pride, stand for something, get your shirts today.
Stand by. Stand by.
Yeah, everyone watch this really closely, please. It's very important. And it's the option to get out of this mess. Unmute at the top there, Raj.
Copy that.
I get asked all the time about how my mom
Yeah, it's like got that 5-second thing in the lower right corner. There you go.
Almost no one knows this.
Reaches it.
About an assassination. He's like, hey, man, it's dangerous in that hotel. All right. So I wrote a commentary this morning. Here it is, inspired again by John Goodman, who's my campaign election fraud expert. He knows how to make elections safe and secure and honest again. And he knows about the fraud. He knows how to stop it. It is titled, President Trump, you want to win the midterms. The time has come to declare a national security emergency for U.S. elections. Do it now. Don't wait another day. This is a checkmate. America is in the midst of a life or death national security emergency. The time to act is now. Democrats not only stole the 2020 election with the help of China, the CCP, Venezuela, and Iran, not to mention the perfectly timed COVID pandemic. And when I say perfectly timed, I say that with a wink and a nod. It just was so perfectly timed that it couldn't have been perfectly timed. The Democrats got together with China to try and stop Trump, and they let millions of you die and get injured and get crippled and get disabled, all in the bargain. Thank the Democrat Party. But they have also stolen dozens of Senate and House seats. No one talks about that. All of this blatant theft and voter fraud has changed the direction of America and the U.S. economy and the fate of the great American middle class. We face three existential threats that could end America, American exceptionalism, and capitalism, because all of this voter fraud has led to all of these stolen elections. Those three existential threats: wokeism, communism, and radical Islam. That's the Democrat axis of evil. Now Democrats are salivating at the thought of their incoming midterm victory, which for all intents and purposes ends the Trump presidency. If Democrats manage to steal another national election, Trump will face nonstop impeachments. The president will be unable to pass any of his agenda, and we will all be facing permanent voter fraud, leading to permanent stolen elections, leading to a one-party socialist welfare state. And let me wake everyone up. There is no other cavalry coming. Did you hear my words? There's no cavalry coming. The Senate will not end or even temporarily suspend the filibuster. Therefore, the Senate will not pass the Save America Act. Face the truth. Our GOP Senate is either useless or bribed, but either way, it's not happening. It's time to pull out the national emergency card. President Trump in April of 2025 was prepared to declare a national security emergency for U.S. elections. This national security declaration was primarily based on the fact that FBI Director Kash Patel had just found out that China and the CCP interfered in the 2020 presidential election. Along with the National Security Emergency Declaration was a 17-page executive order that addressed everything from voter ID, voter registration, and limiting voting through mail-in ballots, going back to the old style absentee ballots where the only people voting through the mail were overseas military, elderly, and disabled. President Trump never released the National Security Emergency Declaration and EO on elections. Why? People close to the president say he was talked out of it because he was assured that the Save America Act was the cure to the rigged elections, and it was soon to pass any day now. And I promise my check is in the mail. I could finish with the last part of that, but we can't say that on TV. It's time to stop dreaming. It's time to stop being delusional. The SAVE Act is not passing. The SAVE Act is never passing. The cavalry is not coming, at least not from this cowardly and bribed Republican U.S. Senate. But the National Emergency Declaration is the cavalry. In 1976, Congress passed the National Emergency Act, NEA, which gave Congress the power to revoke a presidential national security emergency with just a simple majority, which they don't have, by the way. However, in the early 1980s, President Reagan challenged that bill, with Reagan arguing that Congress should not have the authority to take down something as serious as a national security emergency as declared by the president. In 1983, the Supreme Court ruled the only way Congress can undo a president's national security emergency is by, one, both chambers of Congress must produce a 2/3 majority. Good luck, Democrats. And two, Congress has 6 months from the time the national security emergency is signed to achieve the 2/3 majority in both the House and the Senate. President Trump could declare a national security emergency on elections or for elections today, based on the emergency being millions of illegal aliens, non-citizens, or illegally voting in and changing the outcome of U.S. elections. Article 15 of the U.S. Constitution says American citizens must be afforded the right to vote, but it doesn't give the green light to illegal aliens or non-citizens to vote. Article 6 in the Constitution says the Constitution is the supreme law of the land and must be followed by government, judges, and citizens. By declaring a national security emergency for elections based on illegal aliens, non-citizens voting by the millions, it is easy to prove there is a national emergency. California is very public with their motor voter program, where legal aliens receive IDs and voting rights. That's exactly why California has over 30 million fraudulent mail-in ballots per election. In my adopted home state of Nevada, it's even worse. Not only can you vote in person with no ID in Nevada, but every illegal alien can illegally get a driver's license at DMV, whereupon they're automatically registered to vote, whether they want to or not. And then the state mails out ballots to every voter in the state, whether they ask for it or not, which means every illegal alien is not only legally registered to vote, but can do it from home without ever showing up to vote. Therefore, they don't even have to worry that ICE is there waiting for them. Nevada is encouraging massive voter fraud that's happening all over the country. President Trump can declare a national security emergency for elections, along with an EO, which is under that umbrella, stopping illegals from voting. Our elections are not honest and secure, and illegal aliens make up millions and millions of the fraudulent votes. Concerning the voting machines, in 2018, the Supreme Court codified Executive Order 23848, which gives the President of the United States the right to interject in elections if there is proof of foreign voting interference. We know that many voting machines around the country have had wireless devices placed inside of them, including 36 voting machines in Mesa County, Colorado, aka Tina Peters territory. That's why crooked Colorado Democrat politicians and judges conspired to convict Tina of a non-crime and put her away for 9 years in prison at the age of 70. Democrat politicians and judges in Colorado want Tina to die in prison because she knows exactly how Democrats are hacking the machines to steal elections. Surely Democrats will try to challenge Trump's national emergency declaration, as they always do, but they can't. It cannot be undone in the courts. It can only be undone if Democrats can produce a 2/3 majority in both chambers of Congress within 6 months. First, Democrats can't do it. They don't have 2/3, not even close. They lose, period. Trump wins, period. America wins. Secondly, 6 months from today brings us to the last days of October, which is before the midterms. The way this works is Trump's national security emergency declaration is in effect from the day he signs it. Democrats have until the last days of October, therefore, to reverse it with the 2/3 vote in both chambers of Congress, but it's in effect all that time. Once the 6-month deadline passes, it's officially over, and we all know they don't have the votes to overturn it. So it applies to stop Democrats from cheating, rigging, and stealing the midterms from the day Trump signs it till after the deadline passes, and then the midterms, and then it's in place forever. And no court can get involved there by neutering the communist insurrection judges. It is my opinion this is the only path remaining to save the midterms from another stolen election by Democrats. This is the only way to avoid endless court challenges and appeals, which would likely not get to the Supreme Court before the midterms anyway. This is how we get honest elections. This is how we never lose again. Everyone loves a winner. This makes President Trump and us winners.
Okay, let's get John back on. Finish it off.
Okay. Thank you very much, Steve. So this is why this is the only path left, because number one, the Supreme Court already ruled in 1983 that the only way to undo a presidential national security emergency is 2/3 vote in both chambers within 6 months. They don't have it. Okay. So this is the only way that there won't be Democrat obstruction, because there's not time to do anything else now other than this, because it wouldn't make it through the judicial channels in time for the midterms anyway. So it's legal, and the Supreme Court ruled. The Supreme Court's not even going to hear it, because they said this isn't a court deal. This is, you want that presidential national security emergency gone? Fine, get 2/3 majority in both chambers. So I ask all of these great election integrity people, in closing, I ask all these election integrity great people on this call to urge President Trump to release the national security emergency on elections. He was about to do it 6 months ago, but he was assured the SAVE Act was our savior. So now let's do it, because there's nothing else on the table. There's no cavalry coming. If it's not for this, we will have a repeat of 2020 on steroids. Please help. My Getter address is at John Good 1965. Again, on Getter at John Good 1965. And I hope you will get on board with this. The last thing I have, Steve, is I did get a call. Steve got a call from this gentleman at Mar-a-Lago. President Trump wasn't there, but the Trump team has been sent this. And so they are fully aware of this. And Wayne wrote an article in the Gateway Pundit about this, and it was very well received by Trump's legal team. And I got a call, Steve got a call from Mar-a-Lago. So let's push this over the finish line. It is the only thing that could get done in time with 178 days left, and the Democrats cannot stop it.
Earlier today
So much. And whoever's on there with their
and
live
I
phones,
neglected to get the
thank you
name on the
too.
credit.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, John. You're a good
All right.
friend and great moderator. Our last person to come up is Mitch Vexler from Texas, who's going to talk to you about mortgage fraud and a few other things. Come on down, Mitch. Thanks for waiting.
Hi, it's been an interesting conversation. I've been listening to this for the last few minutes. You have a document that I just sent you in your email, and it's called the Act of Dissuasion. And something happened this morning where an attorney in Washington had asked AI to look at my 354-page document to help the investigators along with what it is that we have laid out in that document, which is called the Second Amendment to the criminal complaint. I filed an original and a First Amendment. This is the follow-up, which does include the voter fraud. AI itself stepped into a landmine when it started spewing this morning information with regard to the Jack Smith case. And let's just say I went a few rounds with AI and it lost. That document is well worth people's reading, because part of the problem that we're all facing is, in fact, fraud by virtue of what is happening with the broadcast companies themselves that the FCC has the authority to shut down. So we've got multiple problems, one of which obviously is the voter fraud. But when you've got companies that are spewing utter nonsense, claiming that the Jack Smith trial, prepared trial, what he was aiming for, was legitimized, when in fact it wasn't, just the opposite, and I laid all that out in the response, we have problems, because what we're truly dealing with is socialism, socialist policies, And I left one country called Canada over this nonsense in 1990. I have a pretty fair idea what I'm speaking about. So when you realize that socialism in and of itself should be codified into US law as illegal, a lot of this problem is going to be forced to go away. What we're dealing with on the voting scale, the voter fraud, these are socialist policies. That's the ramifications of what it is that they are doing. And it is the exact opposite of what the United States was founded upon. The document that I've got now created, I hope to have it out ideally within the next 5 days into the public realm, that ties all of this together. It ties the voter fraud by virtue of the software. It ties the school district bond fraud by virtue of the software. And it ties the property tax fraud by virtue of the software. It's all related to the software. The software has been designed to allow fraud to occur. This is pure socialism. This is pure theft. And the real national security risk is the bankruptcy of 42 million households across the United States and or losing the roof over their head because they can't make the real estate tax payments. All of these things are connected. It's in the software. What we're dealing with is pure propaganda. It has to stop. And I agree that President Trump is going to have to call in the National Guard, and these voting machines are going to have to be destroyed. The safest election and the only election that can occur at this point has absolutely nothing to do with a voting machine. Use a fishbowl and a bunch of paper. It's the only way to get a true count as to what is happening. And the documents that I've written, including the one that, Steve, you have right now, that's a part of the 354 pages. It lays out this case crystal clear.
How do people reach you?
The website is mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. And the email I sent you can feel free to send it to anybody you want. It's just a small snippet. It's only 6 pages, but it's lethal with regard to what AI is spewing. And it's utter nonsense. It's horrible what has happened here.
Well, thank you very much for coming on today, Mitch. And that's going to close it for today. We want to thank everybody for coming. Again, Trump Day for Broward County Republican Party, September 19th with top speakers. Anybody would like to come, it's going to be at the racetrack down in Hallandale. It's called Gulfstream Park and Casino. You can go to the racetrack in the afternoon, our event in the evening, and then go right next door to the casino. So you can make it a 3-in-1. Last year, John Fredericks was one of our speakers. He wants to come back again. We had Byron Donalds. This year, we're asking Trump's youngest son to come. We'll see if we can get him. Again, precinctprojectusa.org, very important. I'm asking everybody to sign up. There's millions of people on this thing. It takes a very little stroke of your pen to come to precinctprojectusa.org. Very important. Again, if anybody wants to get our new hat that just came in last week, all our 350 paraphernalia, theflagshirt.com. Email me at stern1054@gmail.com. Glad to answer any of your questions. Please join me, Stern American, on X. We haven't talked about that much. We have a lot of people who are going to be expanding X. Seems to be a lot of people on it. We had somebody put 250,000 people on it today. We're expanding our podcasters. If you have any podcasters, please do that. Raj, you want to close it up today?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being on the call today. A couple of things. Please share the link to this event with people in your group, your Telegram groups, your Signal groups, Facebook groups, any group that you have. And if you're asking yourself, well, how do I do that? It's very simple. You just go to sternamerican.com. Go to sternamerican.com. I'll show you how that works here in just a second. Go to sternamerican.com. And then click on the Rumble link. Just click on the Rumble link. I'm doing it right now, sternamerican.com. Click on the Rumble link that you'll see right here. There's a Rumble link. Click that. Scroll down, and here are all the videos. Here's the call that we're on right now. It's currently live. Already 2,500 people have watched today's call. If you want to see some of the other previous live events. You can see that here, 37,000 here, 23,000 here. So this is something that people are very, very, very much interested in. And that does not include the restreams that podcasters are restreaming that. So that's number one. Please share this with people in your groups. Second thing, please look to see how you can embark on, we're in the election integrity. We've got to have some deliverables in terms of results in the midterms. So just as a recap, please look to see what you can do with your groups to make sure that we get the results we absolutely must get in the midterms. It's not going to be done by someone else. It's going to be done by the people on this call and the people that are under your influence. Lastly, as we end up, please go to the flag shirt, flagshirt.com. And why am I asking you to do that? July 4th is coming up, Super Patriotics 250th anniversary. You can already see the 250th anniversary stuff being worn everywhere. Buy it from the flag shirt, because when you do that, you are literally, in a very real way, supporting the work that you see done on these events and stuff behind it. So please take a look at that. All right, friends, please keep in mind that we'll be doing another call here in a couple of weeks. Look for an email from us about that. In the meantime, like we hear on podcast, action, action, action. Bye for now, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.